Right, good evening. We'll make a start. Hello, hello, hello. Right, for those who don't know me, I'm James. I'm one of the coaches for Chorlton runners. I'm just going to introduce our panel, so I'll let them introduce themselves. So, Stu.
Hi everyone, I'm Stu Holiday. I literally re-signed for the club last week, having been a member since 2013, 5 years in London, just over that, and I know James very well, Alex and John, the rest of the panel less well. I've done 7 marathons, but nowadays my main marathon is looking after 2 very young children and trying to stay fit.
Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I've done at least 8 marathons and quite a few ultras. And yeah, I started doing them with this club back when John was led me around my first training block in 2019.
Yeah, true, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm John. I've done 7 marathons, 2 ultras. But my aim now, I don't race anymore at my age. I just pace, which I enjoy. And I've paced Manchester Marathon 4 hours twice. That's it really. Just I live on experience really. I don't have a plan.
Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. Contrary to what it said on the advert, I'm not an expert marathon runner. I've run 2 marathons, but I've started running relatively late, so kind of picked it up during lockdown when I had 2 young children. So I've probably come at it from a slightly different perspective to lots of our other runners, which will hopefully be useful to some of you.
Russ.
I'm Russell. I'm also a coach here. I've done 7 marathons as well, which seems to be the magic number. Also done an ultra, and yeah, I think that's all that's relevant really.
And last but not least, Nick.
Yeah, Nick, local physio here at Chorlton runner for about 10 years. I think 4 marathons, none of them flat or on tarmac, all undulating trails and fells and stuff. I think 3 ultras, I think. So yeah, hopefully pick some reins later.
Right, good. So what I'm going to do in a moment is I'll just ask some questions myself to some of the team who are asked them to talk a little bit about their top tips or their thoughts for marathons. Just as a bit of a guide, how many of you are doing first marathons versus how many of you are looking to improve on previous? So who's doing very first marathon? Okay, good. And then the rest of you looking on next marathon, how you progress, that kind of thing, yeah? Fabulous, good. So let's start. I'm going to start There we go. That is on, but don't worry if you're not in it. It's a really volume. There were a couple of people who asked, would we record it? And I turned around and said, will do, but I wasn't prepared to say that in advance because otherwise no one would turn up. So, and ask questions. Let's kick off with Alex then. Just talk a little bit about how you got into your marathon journey, some of your top tips, I suppose what you've learned over those marathons that you've done.
Yeah, so as I kind of briefly mentioned, I joined the club in 2017, 2018, and then basically saw John doing like lots of run leading, and I was at that point where I just thought, a marathon seems like an awfully long way and an awful lot of work, and I don't actually know if I'm cut out to do the training. So I went along to the Tuesday runs and our Sunday runs and did bits of park run. So did training that was kind of like, it was structured, but it wasn't a traditional plan, should I say. Basically, I made it through all of the long runs with you, doing multiple 20-mile runs. And the week before, John was like, you're not injured and you've not signed up to Manchester. Why don't you sign up? Because back in those days, there were places in the bin, they just, so I thought, yeah, why not? I'll sign up. And honestly, the lack of expectation was phenomenal. I had a whale of a day because I just felt no pressure, just went for it, and yeah, completed my first marathon. And ever since then, I was like, yeah, I want to do more and go further and try and go faster, even though that's getting harder.
And what would you say you've learned? I mean, I know you've got a couple of books out in CV, so what sort of things going from number 1 to number 7, what are the big learns you've had?
I think it's really important have a plan. Even some structure with it, to be honest. And the thing I see a lot of people do now that marathons are becoming more popular is there's a lot of plans out there. And what I think is, just because it suits one person, it might not suit another person. Like, I look at some of, like, I don't know, maybe James's training, Russ's training, and I think, wow, that looks mad, intense. There's a lot of miles there, and I don't have enough time in my life, and my legs will break if I do that. So my top tip would be, look at the plans out there, speak to people, and see, like, look at it, and it should look a bit scary, because yeah, it is a bit scary training for marathons, but it also shouldn't be like, I can't do this. If you look at it and think, that's going to break me, or I'm not going to have fun doing it, why are you doing it? I think fun is a key element. It shouldn't be completely arduous. So like, look around, shop around at your plans, and you know, if you're really struggling, even enlist a coach or someone who's knowledgeable to like help you on your journey. I just think there's so much information out there, and it can be a bit overwhelming at times. And like over time, like I've worked using like various plans, both kind of like online ones. I'm now going to AI ones, which I know is a bit of a controversial topic. But I think once you kind of know your body a bit more, you're able to say like, yeah, this plan works. Or you might pick up, like I pick up my plan, I'm like, I don't really think that's correct. And I kind of work it to what like I know that I need to do well.
Amy, how did you juggle your, so you've got a young family, so how did you juggle your training with having a young family?
I think being realistic about what you can and can't commit to. Like similar to Alex, because I only really picked up running just before lockdown. I think like lots of people, I did part run, and then I was like, oh, I can do 5k. Then carried on running during lockdown, and then signed up for a half just on a whim. Did a half, and I was like, oh yeah, a full marathon is just double that distance. It's fine. It'll be fine. I can do it. And then the panic kind of set in. Looking around, similar to Alex, I looked at lots of plans, and I thought lots of plans were starting off running 4 or 5 times a week. I just can't commit to 4 or 5 runs a week with a young family and a job. So it's being realistic about what you can and can't do. But I knew that I could commit to 3 runs a week to start with. But I knew that if I was doing only 3 runs a week, I really had to make those runs count. So I think it's being really mindful about what runs you are doing and what is the purpose of that run. So I made sure that I had 1 easy run. I made sure that as much as I hate it, that I would really get down to track Friday, because I knew that is what would make me go really fast. And I would do a long run, but making sure that my long run, I changed the paces up during that long run. So it was alternating between easy pace and marathon pace. So I think when you are shopping around and looking at plans, be realistic about what you can do. If you see a plan and it starts off week 1, 2, 3, and it's like 4 runs, 5 runs, and if you know you can't commit to that at the beginning, there's no point pursuing that, because the mileage is only going to go up as you go through the plan. So for me, that's the biggest piece of advice I would give, is be realistic about what you can commit to and what your body can do as well.
And John, what sort of learns have you had along the time? And I suppose listening to other runners, what have you picked up, and what's your...
I'll be quite honest, the first thing, I started in 2013. I ran a mile with my son. That was the first and last mile he ever ran with me. 3 days later I ran 3 miles, and I did my first marathon in 2014. The worst thing for me, because I wasn't a member of a club, I just went out. If I did 3 mile, I did it 8-minute mile pace. If I did 5 mile, I just did the same thing. So as Amy said, you need to vary the pace for your muscles, everything is. But I set myself a goal about 4 weeks before. It was the worst thing I did, because I set myself a goal of 4 hours. And I would say to anybody doing the first one, don't go and, well, you want to go and enjoy it, but don't think, oh, I've got to keep this pace, because you'll learn so much about yourself your mind, your body, nutrition and all this in the first marathon. Just go and complete it. If you enjoy it, you'll do it again. I only wanted to do one marathon. As I say, I've done 7 and I've not stopped running since. It's hard if it's your first one, like to hear that, but just go and enjoy it as much as you can, because you will learn so much. What else was it?
I suppose when you learn, you've heard from other runners.
Yeah,
You
that's
do
it.
so many of the long training runs with people. What sort of things?
Yeah,
do you
well,
do?
the other thing I was thinking of there, I was injured in 2018, had my Achilles. I got it sorted. I ran the London Marathon, and all I ever did in the training was the long run. For me, the long run is the most important thing. I spent the rest of the time in the gym, strength and conditioning, and going on the cross trainer. And it's boring as sin, but I was going on the cross trainer for 2 hours at a time. But that stamina wise, that kept me going, because I wasn't having the impact all the time. So the other thing is, a lot of people say, oh, I'm not feeling so good. I'm just going to go out and run. I've got a niggle. You're better off leaving that day, do something else, and get back to it. If you miss one run a week in your training, it's not mega. When you get to 2 and 3 weeks you're missing, then you know you've got to start thinking other plans, like, you know. But don't let it get you down. It's, you almost could talk about the mind games, won't you, mate? Training wise, and obviously running. Yeah, and I just enjoy. Like, I don't race anymore, not at my age, at 33. I just go out and just plod along, and that's, I love pace, and I can just go out like a metronome, and that does it for me.
I'm going to bring Nick in next then, as we've talked about having a session out if needs be, and strength. So Nick, what are your sort of top hints to the ladies and gents here as we go for that block?
Physioing for about 28 years, I've seen quite a few marathon runners over the years, and it is a learning journey. You won't get it all right, so listen to what your body's telling you primarily. If your body's saying, geez, this is a hard week, back off. You're doing good, great. So yeah, listen. But running is about the ability to absorb load through your levers. So stretchy your levers can be, and as strong as your levers can be, great. It's a single leg repetitive exercise. So single leg repetitive exercises in the gym for strength. The strength is big. You're asking your body to load and load and load and load as the program goes on. So if you imagine a graph, you want to increase your exercise strength in a similar vein. If you do the same exercise with body weight, it's not really reflective of landing 6 to 10 times your body weight coming through your leg every time you land. You're not lifting that. But if you start with body weight, progress to weighted exercise, finish with plyometric, jumpy stuff, jumping around as your program goes on, you're matching your loading in the gym or at home, it doesn't have to be at the gym, at home, with a similar way that the program is loading more and more and more. So match your load as you go on. Strength, nice circle over here. But also your flexibility. Now we're all different. Some people are naturally looser than others. Other folks, definitely not. If you know you're not the most flexible person, if you load your muscles, it will break down, repair, and come back stronger, but in doing so it gets a bit tighter. So that tightness needs a little bit of addressing. That might be maintaining the good flexibility you already have. If you're on the tighter side, you might need to spend a little bit more time on the flexibility side. So ideally, you want to be nice and strong, you want to be nice and long, and the dream scenario, very few folks are in it, is that I'm both strong and long, maintaining or improving my strength as that program goes on. And it will change, you know, heavy week, right, legs are sore, it's different, tight. Okay, maybe I need a bit of an easier week with an emphasis on flexibility this week. Listen, your body will tell you. Just don't go, no, my program says do this. Your legs are saying, so yeah, backing off for a week, it's not the end of the world. You don't lose anything in 2 weeks. You have a massive illness, weather's crap, icy, you don't lose everything in 2 weeks. But have you got 2 weeks flexibility in your schedule? Different question. So don't panic. But yeah, listen to what your body's saying. 1 in 4 people don't make marathon start line, so just making the start line. mix your runs up, so you've got this Swiss Army like ability to do everything. I can run fast, I can run hills, I can run slow, I can run steady. Your body will tap into those reserves when you need them at certain points on race day. That'll do for now. Got some other stuff.
We have spoken about running hard there and running through pain at times. Well, not through pain, but running when it is tough. So when we as runners, both in the race and our training, start to find it hard, or we want to find those strategies or techniques to get us through, talk us a little bit about that.
Right, so maybe for the benefit of the crowd, I didn't introduce myself with, because I was going on about being a Chorlton runner, is that I'm a trained sports psychologist of as long as I've been in Chorlton runners actually, since 2013. And I've worked at Olympic level and with elites, still do now, and all the way down to 5-hour plus marathon runners, so really the full range. And there's not really a lot of difference, probably a bit what Nick finds. I mean, obviously maybe the people at the top end are very bendy and very strong, and then it's the scale down. But there's people at the, I would say, slower end who are very mentally tough, and there's some more fragile folk at the top. But what I would say is this is the right time to be doing marathon, whether it's a first time like Peter, or you're well experienced. Having the conversation we're having now, like when it's cold and rainy, and you signed up and you're beginning to commit to it. We've had the icy week where you've not been able to run as much, or you've been doing treadmill. Really set the intention right all the way back. When you've got all that tons of enthusiasm and you think, like this is going to be so much fun. But Alex was saying, you're probably beginning to hit a bit now where a bit like after you've bought something, novelty's worn off, but you're going to have to use it the whole time. So what I'm really big on is in all the athletes I work with, think at this point, what's the question me and James have worked with another sports psychologist in America, what's the relationship you want to your race? As John was saying, could be just get round. It could be, I want to have the best race I've ever had. It could be, I want to just get that a little bit better than I did before. Me and Alex were talking beforehand about her goals for what she's trying to do in her racing 7 or 8 marathons in. You always got to try and build on what you've done before. So if you've never run a marathon, you might have done a half. So you might want to just say to yourself, I'm going to get better at that. But think about that relationship and how you want to be in that space. And there's people, the thing we find with all marathon runners in all clubs everywhere is people can be so hard on themselves. They're either, I'm going to be so slow and rubbish at one end, to I'm so determined and I'm absolutely going to crack this time, I want to qualify for this and I want to do that, and kind of both of those are just equally as dangerous as each other. It's about pushing. The thing about marathon training is in the race you're going to push yourself like you've probably never pushed yourself before, even if it's like what John was doing when he did London, the first marathon, and you were just getting around. It isn't a case like where we're saying Nick's the body and I'm the brains. You are one whole person, yeah, and it all interlinks. How well you think on the day is going to have an influence on how well you run generally. If the body's not quite where it should be, you might have to use your mind to kind of help it through, or just set a more realistic goal. And what I would be saying is there's a real bonus that you can all take from today, and that's like what I get everyone to do is, when you've got 12, 13 weeks before a marathon around now, in Manchester or London, that's 12 or 13 weeks where you're going to go and do 3, 4, 5, 6 runs a week. Every single session you've got can have that purpose. Someone mentioned every run you do has purpose. You might say, well, recovery runs just shake my legs out after I've done track. And it's like, well, yes, but what I always say is when you're doing something like track or intervals, that's where your mind wants to get all really pointy and precise. You might be doing a 400, but you want to kind of be on that start line, almost like a boxer ready to go in the ring. When the gun goes for the rep, that you're like absolutely dialed in. It might be painful, but make the most of it and use your brain to get round. James is great at track, and there's some of the other people here do track training. How as the runner are you going to get through what might be horrible and icky, or like cross country as well is one where everyone seems to have a hatred of it, and it's like you can be really negative if you want, but that's probably not going to help a marathon. I would be looking at cross country and saying this is going to be hell. I'm going to want to quit halfway through, but if I'm running really hard and really well, then I'm probably somewhere where I need to be at my limit, and that's going to be good experience. I can bank that and put it in my, sort of docket of all the things that you're going to use as you go through your training. So when you're doing the speed work, you want to be thinking really hard and precise, get through this rep, be really, really sort of sharp and focused, maybe use the track furniture to get through, get to this bit, get around that part of the track, go to this bit, get to that part of the track, break it down, make it easier, which is a marathon in itself. Like, whether you're breaking your marathon down into every 6 miles or whatever. And then if you're doing a recovery run, you've probably worked really hard that week, like we're hearing about with kids or whatever, you've been training really hard. Recovery run is your relaxation time. You don't need to look at the watch. Use it to just switch your mind off, relax, 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 relax. Because the next run you've got is probably going to be one where you have to really switched on. So it's about learning how to switch your mind on and learning how to switch your mind off, which might be something we talk about when it comes to the actual race itself, because you can't be running for 2, 3, 4 hours with your mind just like intensely going, focus, 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 focus. That's going to be a horrible marathon for you.
Cool.
And I'm not wanting to punt my wares too much, but there is a wonderful book called The Psychology of Running. I don't know who the author was. It's a tenner-ish from Routledge, all good bookshops, Amazon, you name it. And if you want to look it up, it's got loads of specific strategies in there for all kinds of runners that we're describing.
We've heard from a number of people there. We've got lots of thoughts already. So I'm going to start to see if people have got questions. So it can be about nutrition, training plans. It can be about injury. It can be, how did you cope with whatever from any of our runners here, and me and Russ as coaches as well. So let's kick off.
I have a few. Let me start with Nick. Weights, body weight. It's better to have less than what we have now to run the marathon. Shall I ask all the questions, or shall I?
We can start with, do you mean in terms of your, rather than strength, your actual weight?
Obviously, I'm X weight body at the moment. Should I lose, before the marathon?
No.
5, because it will be easier, or not?
I mean, arguably it's good resistance training to start with,
Yeah.
but if you're running 3, 4, 5 times a week with a marathon program, you'll want to eat everything, and you will still. I don't think I've met anybody that's got heavier. I can't think of any. It's got heavier during the marathon. During the marathon block. So it's unlikely.
That's carrying a big flag, John.
I mean, if you're very much if you're on a medically heavy, very morbidly obese, then maybe you should be starting hard and have some impact training. But from this safe distance, don't worry about it. I'll be amazed if you increase body weight. But yes, like anything, you'll be starting your marathon block gently, slowly, with resistance training, starting with body weight. When you can achieve a minute's worth or 30 reps with body weight, move on to some resistance, some heavier weights with those things. Same exercises, ideally mix them up, which any single leg straight line exercise to begin with. Once you're comfortable with that, change the direction, so some side to side movements or rotational movements. Once you've got weights and you've got light weights and you can do 30 reps, for example, you can then experiment with heavier weights if you have access to them. Improvise if you haven't, doesn't matter what you're lifting, as long as it's heavy. You're doing smaller sets of say 10 reps with heavier weights, as well as your higher 30 reps with weights. Just keep going through the weights, and when as your program is going on, when you can do your 30s, just progress, and in that last little period of your last say 4, 6 weeks worth, you can leap around, plyometric, jump around, side to side, maintaining good form so your legs aren't falling all over the place. But your running has grown and grown and grown, your weights have grown and grown and grown. I would from this distance, I wouldn't worry about body weight.
I'm desperate to say something about weight. Sorry, it's a female thing. I think you've got to be so careful when marathon training that you're not under fueling. It is for guys as well, but for girls especially. Like, there's a thing called REDS, which is relative energy deficiency syndrome. I've got books on this. Is like a nutrition book, but like, please don't underestimate how much fuel you need. Your weight really should not matter unless, as Nick said, you're like morbidly obese and it's doing more damage to your body. You want to be strong. A number on the scale does not matter. You need to eat nutrients to give you the fuel to do the training you need. And yeah, don't be thinking you need to be thin to get on the start line, because like you get injured. Like, when I was the thinnest I ever was, I was injured like a lot, and now I weigh more and like still go on like a crop top or whatever for a race, but I'm much bigger, but I'm much faster. So, you know, it works. Weight and eating probably works, but yeah, please don't not eat.
Could I interject there? So I'm Jo, I'm one of the coaches. How many of you actually do some form of weight training at the moment, whether that's body weight or actually go to the gym? How consistent are you? Do you do at least 2 30-minute sessions a week? Yeah, so the numbers drop then, so you have to be consistent with your weight training, because when you're running mileage, you're going to be losing a lot of that muscle mass when you're training, so you become a lot leaner, but you need that muscle mass to be able to physically endure the race as well. So just ensure, if you're not doing it, don't go jumping into, you know, doing 60 kilo deadlifts type thing. It's not going to happen.
I think that's a lot for women as well, isn't it? It's to do with women, and especially as women get older, it's harder for us to gain muscle mass.
Yeah, we all lose.
Yeah, football
Density
down.
goes down as well.
I think there's.
Can I just add as well, like for my own personal training, I've increased my mileage quite a lot over the last couple of years, and one of the things that's enabled me to do that is eating at mindful times. So before I've got a hard session, before I've got a long run, I make sure I'm getting my carbohydrates. Every single run now I'm having protein shakes after that run, because my body needs to recover from that run in order to do my next run. So, I mean, I'm not expecting anyone else to be doing my mileage, but in order for me to do that mileage, I have to make sure I'm eating properly.
I think it's really important. If you follow a vegan diet in particular, making sure that level of protein that you can get into your diet is really, really important for that recovery process. We were just mentioning, so we're talking about strength work there. And I mean, I go to the gym, others do. You don't have to do that. I guess Nick's talked a lot about those sort of single leg exercises, making sure that we also focus on our core and doing things like planks, like, you know, whatever, Russian twists, whatever it might be, nice and easy to do at home. Your core is what holds you nice and tall. And when you get to mile 20 of that marathon, you want your hips to be as high as they were at mile 0. So focusing on areas that can strengthen that core that's going to hold you nice and tight, really important.
Could I just add as well, that it's around that, but basically sleeping is getting good sleeping is so important, because that's when you do the majority of your recovery. So it's all very good doing loads of running, loads of weight stuff, but you have to get good sleep in order for those changes to take effect.
Sorry, I was just going to link into that point. So personally, I don't have kids, but then I was just thinking, with rest and recovery, you're absolutely bang on, Russell. But from somebody who perhaps has kids or commitments, busy work, etc., what are people doing to make the most of the recovery time that they do have, if it is limited?
So I double up on days. So at the moment, I've done strength for quite a long time, because a few years ago I was getting injured all the time, and I actually went to see your wife, and she actually said to me, she said, your mileage is too high, you're running too fast, so increase your strength. And so now, if I'm not marathon training, I prioritise strength, and I do my runs around the strength, but now I do it the other way around when I'm marathon training. So I run at the moment 3 times a week, and I do strength 2 or 3 times a week. When my runs increase to 4, I will drop a strength session. But what I will do is I will double up, so I will do a run and a strength session on the same day, if possible. So I might, if I can, drag myself out of bed. I might try and get to the gym and do a strength session early in the morning and then do a run that evening. So that means if I'm doing 3 runs a week and 2 strength sessions, it might give me 2 proper recovery days. So 2 days where I'm not doing any running or any strength. I mean, I say the recovery as much as you can when you've got a busy life, but I also believe in active recovery. So even on those days where I'm recovering, I'm still trying to, I might go for a walk. I might, you know, if I can, my aim this marathon block is to try and do a yoga or a Pilates session once a week, because I feel like that's something that I could really improve on. So it's, I think, being clever about how you train and when you train. So maybe just kind of, if you can put a strength session and a running session in one day, that works really well for me. But you know, that's just my experience. And things like, my son plays football and rugby at Hough End, so I drop him off to training and then I go to the gym for 2 hours. So like things like that really work for me, like just thinking about where I can do things. So it might be I drop him off for training and I go for a run. So just being a bit more mindful about how you slot things in and where they fit in.
Can I just pick up on that? Because I think when you first start training, you want to go, got to do this. But I want to say, more than anything, a rest day is a rest day.
Yeah, definitely.
When you have a rest day, some people are like, oh, I ran yesterday, I'll have a rest day. I tell you what, I'll go to the gym and do some arms. A rest day is, well, for me, I've got the time in it. I don't do anything. Literally, I won't wash the pot. I don't do that anyway, but I won't do anything. I mean, a rest day is a rest day. I'll go to the gym and I'll just go in the sauna or whatever. And that's, don't be tempted. A rest day, I won't do this. You've got to have, and that, as you were saying, it's as good as sleeping. Your body, give it time to recover.
I was just going to add, just very quickly, just building on that conversation piece, and it's good for the mind as well. Back in the day, pre-COVID, I was just looking online there to see whether it's still running in Chorlton. Doesn't look like it is, but there used to be a gang of us, and we'd do the classic kind of sessions at Chorlton on Tuesdays, Thursdays, track Fridays, long run Sunday. Monday, you'd see quite a lot of your Rolly Wallaces, Johnny Harrises, myself and others going to yoga. There used to be one down in Chorlton. I don't try to see whether it's running. Whether it's in Chorlton, wherever, it doesn't need to be runner specific, but you'll find online these days there are run specific yoga sessions. You've caned it all week, and then you get to Monday, usually that's a lot of people's recovery day. I can't tell you how much doing yoga on the Monday for a lot of people really helps with what Nick was saying about loosening yourself up, loosey-goosey, and you know, like I definitely did one block of training where I was absolutely religious, went on the Monday for 12, 13 weeks, and I definitely was running better overall. And I'm the stiff as a board guy that Nick was describing. So if it's good for me, it's good for everyone.
I'm going to just get Sophia's a couple of questions first.
I do, but maybe other people will
Go on then.
I was just going to ask about balancing pace on your long training runs with recovery time and injury and all of those things. How fast should you run? And it's obviously different for everybody, but maybe heart rate's a good measure of that.
Right, I've got a story. It was in COVID. This guy got in touch with me. He actually ran with Kipchoge. We had this chat over Messenger for like 2 hours, and I was the same. I wanted a 3:30 marathon, and it was 8-minute miles, and I just said, like, you know, I'm just a layman, I'll run. And he said, you want to be running your easy runs at least 2 minutes slower than your marathon pace. And I went, flipping it, I struggled to run at 9 minutes. I said, that's too slow. So anyway, I got this guy, and he wanted to do a 2:15 half marathon. So I ended up, I ran with him 10 miles every Tuesday night at 10-minute mile pace. And the first 3 or 4 weeks killed me because I wasn't used to it. It was like my hips were aching because you don't hold yourself properly. And it's like I was saying before, you need to do different paces. well, you were saying it, your easy run, forget it, just go out, don't look at your watch, you've got to just go easy. It's just, basically it's time on your feet, I think, as well.
Did you think that advice was right?
Yeah, well I've done it, and that actually got me into ultra, because I started running at that pace, and I thought, this is a breath of fresh air, because when you're training, you're looking at your watch, you don't take anything in, you're thinking of your breathing, you're thinking of your arms, you're thinking of your, everything's right and all this, and then when you run slower, you think, I never noticed that by now, and it's amazing how it's more inspiring to run slower than faster. That's what I enjoy now.
I do think it's a bit different though, because it depends what you want.
Course
So,
it is.
if you want a time, you will want to do some faster miles in your longer runs, because that's when it's going to show that it gets hard. And you've got to think you're going to do it for that distance.
Yeah.
But what you don't want to do is be like, right, I'm doing a marathon in 4 hours, so all of my runs are going to be 9-minute miles, and I'm going to do it all at that speed, because that will be hard. So, like, I don't know, I've got various plans where I've had like, you'll have a long run and like, you might start off like so many miles easy, then like a block of marathon pace, or I know Russ did on the other day, we have a few blocks of marathon pace in there.
Yeah,
And
you tend to build it up, don't you? So you might start off doing it 2 minutes slower at the beginning of your block, but then as you progress through your block, you start adding more and more specific, don't you?
And if you have a race, you might do like a tune-up race where you're like, right, I'm going to do a half marathon, but I'm going to do it at the race pace, like my marathon pace, just to see like how that feels, and then you can test all of your like kit and your gels, and sometimes it's good to even do like, you could do like a warm-up. So say if, I don't know, there's a local race, you might do like a 2-mile easy warm-up and then do your half marathon and at your marathon pace. And
I think it's actually really important when if you are going to go and find a plan like Hanson's or Macmillan's or whoever's they are, is that really good understanding, as I think Alex said, in terms of what you want to do. So there are some plans which are really high mileage but really low intensity, and that huge amount of mileage is what gets you your time on the day. There are others which are lower mileage, but they will be putting in far more intensity, because that's the only way you're going to hit your pace on the day. So that's the first thing to say, is what is your plan actually going to be?
Also, Jane, sorry, I just say about where you are at the moment before you decide what plan you're going to follow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So different people will look at different plans, and it in a way will determine on lifestyle, where they are, all the rest of it. Rather like Alex said, so when I'm looking at different people's, or Russ, when I'm looking at different people's, when you're in the early stages of your long runs, in reality, you just want to get that mileage up. You just need to have those 4 or 5 weeks where you're saying, I'm building that long run. There isn't any necessity to put in any intensity to start with. Phase 2, you're probably then saying, I've got 16, 17 miles today, and I'm going to try and do the back 3 or 4 miles of it at marathon pace, but actually only a smaller part of it.
At the end.
Yeah, broadly, yes. So that when you then come on to the kind of final few runs that you have, if you then still want to be able to say, actually, I'm going to test myself a bit further, 2 ways of doing it. You either turn around and say, what you're trying to do with the long run is getting your body to use fat as its main fuel source, rather than using glycogen, because if you go out too fast, you will burn through that glycogen in your muscle stores really quickly, and that's why people hit the wall at 18 or 19 miles. You're trying to train your body to run using fat to begin with as its fuel. So you do that, you build your miles up, and you train it to burn fat. You then start to add a little bit at the end, so you're trying to say, can I hit marathon pace at the end of my long run for 4 or 5 kilometres? That's all it needs to be when I'm already fatigued, having already done 20, 22 kilometres first. Once you then train the body to use fat stores, and you've trained the body to say, can I go a bit faster at the end? You then start to say, I now want to see if I can train the body to run at marathon pace using fat sources. So at that point, you turn around and say, I might have 3 or 4 kilometres at 10k, where I'm now going to try and go at marathon pace, drop the pace back down again for a couple of kilometres, and then go again. So you're doing almost blocks within the run, because you're trying to train that body more and more to burn fat rather than glycogen at that faster pace. The alternative is you actually got to the point where you do the first half of the long run at an nice easy pace, get into it, get the heart rate to where it wants to be, and then kind of push yourself up into marathon. If it's your very first one, just making sure that you can hit that 20 miles, if that's what your plan says, is all that matters. You don't need to worry about anything I've just said. You just need to get that body used to running that distance, time on feet, and using fat as that main fuel source, not glycogen. The thing you mustn't do is to go out and do all, let's say you're going to do your training at 10-minute miles and then sit and think, right, I'm starting off at 750 per mile pace, because your body won't be used to doing that and it will run out of glycogen very fast.
Yeah, it is time on feet, whether you, because like, is that, I forget what it works out, when people say, oh, what's the longest run you do? Some people say 20 mile. But 20 mile, somebody might take 5 hours to do 20 mile. So that, for them, that is 5 hours. For me, somebody as a trainer, that's too much. If that's how long it's going to take you. I would say, what, 3.5 hours perhaps, I don't know.
You said something like this the other day.
It's a difficult one to say, you know, because we're all different paces, you know.
What's
You said, the length of the training. So for people at a certain speed, if you're going, most plans won't go over 20, 21 miles, but it depends on how long you take on your feet. Because if you're going, is it over 3 hours?
3 hours 50. So if you are likely in your training run, so let's say 20 miles is going to take you 4 hours, I don't know. Do not go above 3 hours 15. The reality is, if you do so, you're just going to fatigue yourself so much that come your next run on Tuesday, your body's just going to go, I'm not ready. And if you can do 3.25 hours, regardless of where that's got to you, you'll get through that marathon okay.
Is walking complementary to running in regard to rest days? Because I've got ADHD. I go out for like an hour and a half, probably walk 8 or 9k in the morning before work. I find it really good because I'm burning, in my mind, burning energy. So my mind is a little more settled, and when I start work, I'm more focused. But I was out with Amy on Sunday, 12 miles, great. This morning I walk for 10k, tomorrow I'll walk for 10k, and then tomorrow night I'll be out with the group running the 10k. Not very good at resting.
So if you get used to that, then you're used to it, aren't you? Everybody's different, aren't they?
But it's in some ways, you know, it's what do you active recovery?
Yeah.
You know, I get mental and physical benefit from it, of course, and I just don't know whether it's going to be too much. Like as the weeks pass and the distances increase, and
I can see what your hardest, sort of to put in there. Your hardest thing will be the 2 weeks before. Because I tell you what, you should be the fittest you've ever been, right? And that taper, Tuesday you should be running, and you think, yeah, I'll go and do a run. And it's the hardest thing is to say, well, I'll go on, but I'm going to really chill. And that's when I would like just do 3 or 4 mile at 2 or 3 minutes, less than, you know, just to chill. It's just to keep moving. And it's that.
Whether you are walking, what sort of pace you're walking at, and whether when you get further along that line, if you're doing it for a certain amount of time, whether you potentially go a bit slower or maybe a bit faster, or walk a little bit less, and just cut it by a couple of minutes each time, and that might make that difference to you by the time you get to the end.
Next might be good to answer.
Yeah.
it's that thing about sleep as well. Obviously we were talking earlier on about it. You know, I'm already thinking, you know, 10:30 at night is not good anymore. 9 o'clock at night is better. And yeah, I'm thinking also if I'm going to get to a point, I'm sure, where something's going to have to give. Okay, I kind of get that. But if I can get another extra 2 hours of sleep a night, that's going to help, isn't it?
Yeah.
If your body's used to it, as someone said, and you built up, fine. If your body's not enjoying it, it will let you know. Tight, stiff, heavy legs feel like treacle legs, all these kind of situations. So either walk better, walk less, or could you replace that activity with something else that gives you what walking gives you, like the yoga session, something that's less impact, addressing the tightness, you know, a little yoga flow with a bit of a gentle walk, so you're getting the flush, the recovery. It's then a sort of recovery rest day. It's positive and a positive bank, and it's still keeping all the other stuff. You're still active. You've still got tick the box. It's still in a good structural plan. So your body will let you know. Just don't ignore it.
I think it's also really important that if you're following a plan, so I'm following a plan, that they've built into it 2 or 3, I can't remember, recovery weeks, but actually taking those recovery weeks really seriously. So those, I think like it's mentally really important because you're looking forward to like, oh my god, thank God, I'm going to get this week where I can just cut down my running a bit. But also physically, like your body will need that recovery week. So making sure that when it says recovery week, you're actually cutting down on your running. So like if you're following the plan that I'm doing, I've already told you next week it's a recovery week, so it's 9 miles. Because then the week after that it goes back up to 14 miles. So actually if your plan does have a recovery week in it, do what it says, listen to your body, recover. I like to get a sports massage if you can afford it. It's like really good, but you know, take it easy, and hopefully that will help as well in the long term. I don't know, you write plans, so I'm sure recovery weeks have got their purpose.
I was put drop down weeks into people's plans, absolutely.
It's usually a rule
On
like
the,
3
on
to
the
1.
sports massage front, if you can't afford a sports massage, you've got massage guns, foam rollers, spiky balls. If there's a hot spot on your body, get on it with any of those gadgets. Tennis ball, 2 tennis balls and a sock, couldn't be cheaper. Not a sock above 2 tennis balls, and you don't fall off quite so much. Just find the hot spot, lay on it till it melts, and then move down the area, and then a gentle dynamic stretch afterwards. Still works, and if you're consistently getting one-sided hot spots, that calf, that quad, that hamstring, it might be a bigger question that you might need to answer as to why. So ideally you don't want one-sided continual max. Something's not quite in sync in your body, so you might want to investigate that. But yeah, if sports massage isn't on the table, as it were, massage guns.
How often do you training? Once a month, you know, or?
Everyone's different. I mean, I almost never use them, but it may be that the rest of the things in your system, in your schedule are okay. People are always having to rely on, I get home and I can't wait for the massage gun. For me, something's not quite right. If you're relying on tools like that too often, it's a nice flush in terms of using them. Again, when to use them. If you had the hard Sunday, like, crikey session, that Monday yoga session, massage session, that's a great day after a hard day, after a hard session. The body wants a flush and a bit of a TLC recovery thing. It's a great day to use it. If you're relying on them a lot, for me, something's not quite right.
I like hot bath.
Yeah, I always have a hot bath after a long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, with salts in.
Yeah, it's that like that.
Yeah.
For the massage, is like it's always better to have a massage after a hard session. Like because you usually will have it on the rest day, no?
If you did it after a really hard session, like I know people who get a massage a day after a marathon, you'd be crying.
Yeah.
You'd be
And don't have one just before a race either. They never have a sports massage like 48 hours before a race. Or after. It will hurt.
Some people do such a hard sports massage and it causes trauma. You want to go into
When is the right time to do it?
right, it depends on the person giving massage. Some people go, right, can I have a massage and a bit well music and be very gentle and soft and the cat may as well have done this on you. And other people will cause trauma to your muscles. You know, I was bleeding, it was a great massage. I'm bruised. Is that such a good thing? So person is relevant. Timing is relevant. If your legs are really stiff and achy, a lighter massage, because trauma has happened in that hard run, your muscles will recover, rebuild, come back stronger. That's part of the process. That's why your muscles develop. But you want to add to that levels of trauma without hopefully, no. So it depends on how your reaction is to the runs, but yeah, usually after a hard session, probably the track sessions around a day or 2 afterwards. But depends upon slightly on the person, slightly on the individual, and what your reactions are to those hard runs and how hard were those runs. If there's a really bad reaction, like you say, somebody goes in hard, it really hurts. I don't like pain. Contrary to popular belief.
Sophia, did you have a
confidence level. Yeah, and for at least for me, I have no idea if I can do it or not. Yeah, the longest distance I've done is half a marathon. I'm 53 and I have no idea. So, and the longest distance I'm going to run is probably, I don't know, if I'm very lucky, 30 kilometers. How do I know that in race day I'm going to be able to run 42? How can I, any tips to overcome the lack of confidence?
Well, I mean, it's got my bread and butter here. I mean, if you come up to the front afterwards, this is catnip. Not from me. This is Alex's diary called Believe. This is probably a book for you.
Yeah, this is what you're doing.
It's a training diary written by a very, very high-level American female runner whose views on everything from running to psychology is brilliant. And it actually allows you to write in there, as Alex has done in tiny, scrawly spider writing, everything on which marathon was it?
This is Boston.
Boston Marathon, right? So one of the most prestigious marathons in the world. And she's basically followed what this lady said. You write in here about this, yeah? If you follow something like that on your journey, maybe you've just started your marathon training, and you follow some of the advice I was saying about, like, set your intentions about how you want to run a good race. Whether you're someone like you, someone like Russell, who's, you know, like at the sharper end and has done loads of races, every marathon you're going to do is really crucial. You know, why the hell are you putting yourself through this? Why is it important to you? And then, like, follow what you're doing, writing down these little notes, and as you go, you will develop the confidence. And you just need to trust that if you're using a club like this, all of the resources like we've put on tonight, and if you need to talk to a coach or someone, I'm struggling in week 6, I'm struggling in week 10, oh my God, it's just before the marathon, I'm pooping myself, then you can go back to this and you can get advice. And the point of a marathon training block, I always describe it, is those long runs where you're doing 15, 17, 18, 20, you've got to think about an elastic band. That's the metaphor I use. And, like, imagine a really tight elastic band, and very nicked over there, but you're pulling it to do 15 miles and it goes back. Your body then, and mind, is ready to go to 17. It's got the, you know, and then the same for 19. And that's why you only ever do like a 22, 23 mile run maximum before the 26. You don't need to run 26 miles to do the marathon, because you've kind of gone, right, we've pulled it out this far, it rests back, the recovery, and then come race day, it's ready for 26 miles, wherever you are in the field.
So you are ready to do the last stretch, I suppose, of race day, yeah? Where you can
A thing that I was told early on as well, that we call it a mantra in it,
Yeah.
that everybody needs something why you want to get to the end, why you're doing it. Because I tell you what, you'll keep coming to that, and you'll need to come to that in race day. Yeah. Whether it's mile 5, you think, what am I doing here? Because everybody, you might only have 5 seconds. When you're running, you think, what am I doing? And then, like 10 seconds later, you're on top of the world. You think, this is great. So you need something. Going back a bit mentally, because I'm pretty good with my mental health. But I've done marathons, but when I came to my first 50-mile ultra that I was doing, I'd only ever ran 26.2 miles. So in my head, I had to go out and run further. So I did a 30-mile run on my own. And I came back and thought nothing of it. And somebody messaged me and said, well done on your ultra. I said, I've not ran an ultra. They went, you just ran 30 miles. And I went, and that for me, doing that extra 4 miles in my head, I could do that extra 20 miles. It was nothing, because it was just a case of, I've got to this point, and it's like we were saying, if you get to 20 miles, a marathon, once you get to 20 miles, the race begins. It's all the mental bit after then. Once you've got to 20 miles, he'll mostly tell you more about the mental stuff.
But you can, there's so many, I mean, for ultras, especially for beyond marathons, so many distances that you couldn't, like, try and train for. Like, my longest, like, race has been 100k, and in prep I got to 50k, and then you have to think, I have to do that again. And oh my word, it's just like, I remember I recorded myself when I was doing them, like, because I just like Instagram stories, because I find it quite funny to watch back. And like, there's a video of me going, I'm at 40 miles and I can't believe to say this, but I've got 20 more to go. And it's really like, you just look at yourself and you think you're delirious. But I did have a little mantra. I think if anyone's seen the TV Netflix show Cheer, they used to say, we can, we must, we will. And that was me, what I was telling myself as I was walking up this hill at like 40 miles. So there's a lot of mental game. But if you believe it, you can, the amount you can do someone said, well, it definitely was a sports psychologist, if you smile, apparently it makes it like easier.
It's a lot
That was Noel
Yeah,
did the
yeah.
research on that. My co-author, which Kipchoge cited as when he did the sub-2 marathon. But I mean, obviously, that's like at the very, very high end. Everyone like Alexa and John have said is like once you sort of think about why you're doing this race and what its meaning is for you. Yeah, a lot of people will say, I'm doing it for myself to show myself I can do it. I'm doing it for my kids to give an example. I'm doing it to show that teacher or bully at school that I can bloody do this. Or whatever your thing is. You know, there's tons and tons of reasons why you might want to do a race. I wanted to just run a marathon and see if I can do it. It could be that simple. And that's the point of what I'm saying. In training, that's your free... Look at it like this. Your exam is the London Marathon or Manchester Marathon. And this is your homework. And if you do your homework well, running and psychologically, you're going to stand a good chance of doing well in the exam on the day. And it's that simple. So like you've got to develop how you want to think on the day. You develop from week one every session that you're doing. And Alexa's book's brilliant for explaining like what you can do, like little exercises you can do. My book as well.
So basically, go on Amazon, buy a copy of this book, and a copy of this
you
book.
don't need us.
And just, yeah.
It's like I think Nick said before, he said, the hardest thing is getting to the start line. What we say, 1 in 4 don't make it. Once you get to the start line, that's your lap of honour then. That's your glory lap. The only thing I would say, and because I paced it a couple of years ago, and I think there was 12 people from the club did Sunday runs with me over the time, and we did all the psychology, and I'm talking about you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink and all that. And at the start line, there was 12 of us. 200 metres into the race, there was one girl of me because they'd all shut off. And that is the hardest thing to tell yourself on the start line is discipline. Because you're feeling on top of the world and you just want to go with the crowd. And you'll go with them, and then you'll get to mile 2 and you think, Christ, I'm 30 seconds faster than I should be. And it's the hardest thing to drop it off then, because as I say, you get to 20 miles and then the race begins. You can go, like, okay, I pace, and I say to people, come with me for 5 miles. And then at least you're on track, and then you can do what you want. You can stay with me to 20, you can stay with me to 25 and then go. But the hardest thing is discipline on your first marathon.
All marathons.
Yeah. But on your first, I think you feel on top of the world, and you just want to go. And it is hard to let people pass you, but I'm quite good at letting people pass me. And that was a top tip. I forget, it was a coach here when I first started, and he said what he does, he plays it as zombie games, and he says in that first 4 or 5 miles you'll see the idiot sprinting past you, but I tell you what, before you get to 18 miles you'll see him and you'll clock him and you go 1-0 and like that, and you play a game with yourself because you'll pass more than pass you, believe me.
Can I just say that for me, the absolute best thing I've done for my running is join a running club, because you are surrounded by people that have the same interests as you. And if you do a training block, for my first marathon, I just did it by myself. And for me, my main aim was to make it round. I took that pressure off myself. I was like, I'm just going to make it round this 26 miles, whatever. And then the second marathon, I actually trained. I had a training plan, I trained with the club, and I took like 20 minutes off the marathon time between my first and second marathon. But the absolute best thing for me was training with a group of people. So nobody was doing the training plan that I wanted. So I was like, fine, I'll just lead some people, I'll lead a group, and hopefully some people will come and join me. And it was, I think there were 6 or 7 of us, and I ran with pretty much the same people every single Sunday. So for 15 weeks, it was 7 of us. 6, sometimes there were 4 of us, sometimes there were 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever. But there was a real core group of people, and we all had that same goal. We all knew we wanted to get round those 26 miles in a kind of rough time frame. And having those people in common, they were the people that built up my confidence. You know, they were the people that got me through. I would not have been able to run by myself and go out and run 20 miles by myself. I just don't think I would have that like mental strength to go out and do by myself. But knowing that I was doing it with other people, like 20 miles, going out and training 20 miles, we go and have a chat, we talk about what we've done, we moan, we complain, we talk about what we watched on TV over the weekend. And there it was, for me, like running is so much more about the social experience than it is just about the physical side of improving my fitness. And running with those people, like they really lifted me, and knowing that when they were doing the marathon, if that they were going to be around me doing it as well, it's kind of thinking like, yeah, we can all do it, we've all trained for it. And you know, you make friends, you make really good friends who were sending each other mantras, who were sending each other funny memes or whatever. And it's that kind of friendship and that social side of running that really gave me the confidence to get through it. So I hope you find like a good group of people that you can like train with and hopefully give you the confidence.
Just in terms of, I think running with a group, it's when I first joined the club, I really didn't enjoy running with people, but I definitely learned to kind of cope and then start enjoying that. I've met a lot of good friends around the club as well. On the day though, you're probably running on your own, quite possibly. So psychologically, how do people best prepare for that? If you immerse yourself in a training group, that's amazing. You've got so much camaraderie around you, it's excellent. But then on the day, you could be into a frying pan that you're not quite aware of.
There's plenty of people to run with on the day, believe me.
Too many
You
sometimes.
have to use people. I used to use people just like, yeah, I'll just stay there, and then you might just move up or whatever.
I think it's good to do training runs not totally with people all the time. I get everything Amy said, and you know, I've seen people of all levels do it, and it's great. I do think there's a value to doing some tough runs on your own and being in your own head and seeing how well you do, and again use that as a learning experience. And the one thing we didn't mention, which is a big one for me, is you know, obviously you've got 13 weeks, you might be doing your London or Manchester or whatever, but make sure you've got in a 10k half marathon along the way. And like someone mentioned about getting your kit right and getting all the other bits right, again, that's a mock exam, going back to that example I gave, and it's your chance to practice the psych skills that you'll need on the day. And you know, you might say, well, half marathon's nowhere near as challenging as a full marathon, how's it going to replicate? But trust me, it's got a pre-race warm-up where you're feeling the butterflies, the start where the gun goes, the first few miles where it's all a bit choppy, you don't run off like a hare, like John was saying, control, discipline, practice discipline in a race like that. And you know, even in 10k or a half marathon, it gets a bit hard towards the end, and that's your goal dust, to practice that. When it gets really tough, what are you going to do? What are you going to use as your mantra? And if you practice it in a training race in your marathon block, again, come race day, you're asking, how can I have maximum confidence? You'll go onto the start line of those marathons and you'll feel super, I've practiced, I know what I do, I know what's going to work for me, and I've got this.
Can I just interject there? A lot of the talk we've had is like psychological and plans and everything. And I know there's still some first time marathoners here. And I'm asking each of you, what is your fueling plan for your marathon?
I was going to mention that. On your
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
So for me, I know that it's really important to not start fueling when you feel you need to start fueling, because as soon as you feel a bit low on energy or whatever, you've probably gone too far. So for me, I start fueling after that. I'm working on it now, but I'm trying to take on more fuel, because it says to have between 60 grams to 100 grams of carbs per hour that you're going to be running. Especially in ultra, Alex and John, everyone will know that it's an eating contest, isn't it? It's similar in a marathon. So yeah, so for me, it's like I'll have like a beta fuel gel every 30 minutes, basically, throughout the whole run.
Well, when I did London, that was the first time I really did fueling properly, and it's the thing is, I had a gel every 4 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I got to 3, I had a mile where I was thinking about, right, I've got to get it out of here. And it's amazing how the time goes by. It's something, and I wasn't looking at the mileage. I was counting how many gels I had left. And before, oh, flipping out, on my last one, I must be near the end. And that's every.
Do you do that in training as well?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Practice
It's-
training
I
would
did,
go.
I did practice my fueling, and I got to the marathon, and a mate was saying to me, like, oh, you need to take gels, and I was like, I've not practiced with gels. So I took like 10 jelly babies in my pocket,
Yeah.
worst thing ever. And there were gels on the course, and I was like, well, no, because I've not practiced with it. You know, and the amount of people who try different gels on the day, or try fueling on the day when they're not going to practice.
Yeah, you've got to try
The
everything.
issue you can get.
It is expensive. Like, not gonna lie, I train exactly. I do it like exactly the gels I have in a marathon. Like, I'll put them at certain points. Like, I remember it was one of my friends from club put out a flat lay photo of their marathon, and they had the like caffeine cis beta gels, which are like 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Nootropics.
Yeah, nootropics,
Yeah,
right?
I've done
Which is a lot. And they had 4 of them, or it was like 4 or 5. And it says, and even on CIS's website, it was like, please only use, one at a certain point in your race. And that's how I train
On
with
per
them.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was going to use like 4. Anyway, I messaged him like, have you trained with this? I know it's like fun marathon, this is a bit wrong, but have you done it? He was like, yeah, I drink a lot of coffee, I'm fine. Anyway, took 4 gels and promptly was sick.
Yellow as well.
So, yeah, just really practice it, because that was not what he wanted on his sub-3 attempt.
On that nutrition, like not trying anything new.
It's
It's
not
just-
good for your stomach either. It's for some
Well,
people
some
might-
not, I
Yeah,
can,
some
I
people
can
might
eat, I
make
can drink
stomach
them for
gels,
fun,
so
like,
you
but
need to find what works for you.
yeah, it's trying everything as well. Don't try your pair of socks, your new pair of socks for the first time.
Or
You
your
know,
shoes.
make or your shoes,
Yeah.
anything. Don't even though when I'm pacing, I've got to put my shorts on for the first time, which is not always good. Rashes and all that, but this is, you've got to try everything in the races or up to it. Everything that you're going to do, you've got to try it. It's a rehearsal.
Just to point on that, you talked about gels, but for me, like water has always been really hard because when I do my long runs, I run carrying water, but then during races, I don't like to carry water because I don't like the weight of carrying extra water. So it's just being really mindful about when you drink during a race. So I'm making sure you practice that beforehand. So I tend to take like really small sips when I pass the water station, rather than going past the water station and glugging loads of water, because then it sits in my stomach, and it's
Yeah.
also making sure for me in the whole week before your race that you're hydrating extra in the run up to the race. So I used to in the past kind of panic like the day before a race and be like, oh crap, I've not drank anything other than a cup of tea this morning, and then I'd have like a gallon of water that night before the race, and then I'd be up all night going to the toilet and whatever. So now I try to do better and make sure that in the week up to my race that I'm drinking more water every day, just kind of unspacing that throughout the week. Because I find that on the day itself, especially with the marathon this year being the end of April, it could potentially be quite hot. So just being mindful about how much water that you're taking on throughout the week, rather than just the day before.
Emma, did you?
Yeah,
Enough.
just, races like Trimble 20, like quite long races in the run-up to marathons. What do you think about doing those? And if you do it, so say it's like 5 or 6 weeks before the marathon, should you not treat that as a race? Should you treat it more as a training run, or what should
I would do
you do? I mean, I have had it done.
I would do your marathon
treat it.
strategy, even though it's only 20 miles.
Right.
Not saying
So
only
think
20 miles. It's
marathon
not.
pace.
I would do it. Yeah, you
prepare
just
you for your marathon best. So it might be marathon pace, but it might not be marathon. I definitely won't go faster than marathon pace,
No.
because that's not going to help you towards your marathon goal. Some
But that's
people.
difficult, isn't it? That's really thinking that the marathon really is important. Whereas I think,
Mm.
because last year I did it, and each thing that I do, so say doing that, to me I think, well, I might not make it to the marathon start line, so I might as well treat this as the main training, but it's difficult for me to get over that.
is your target race the marathon?
If your target race is, as Stuart said, if your target race is the marathon, then that's
Yeah, so you
it's a
should
trial.
see it as
That's your
right.
relationship with the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had a shorter run, half marathon, like for instance 7 weeks before Manchester Marathon, is it an opportunity to just go for it?
Again,
You've got time afterwards?
Like Stuart said before, it's about your relationship with the race. If the marathon is the main thing for you, and doing a half marathon 7 weeks before the marathon will not overexert yourself, leave you missing runs the following week because you've gone really hard on that race, then you might want to either pull it back on the half marathon or not do it. It'll be up to you based around what your recovery would look like from that race.
Okay.
I was just going to jump on Amy's point, is it's also worth trying to find out what type of water they have on the course. Because you don't want to do a marathon that has like paper cups and you're like, bollocks, I can't drink out of a paper cup. Because they are really quite difficult to drink out of. Yeah, but you kind of want to practice with them first. Or, oh, if they've got bottles that have got like Old Star sports lids, easy to drink of, or are you going to have to use 2 hands to open a bottle?
Yeah, these
Good
are
point, that one. As well with gels, like
Yeah.
sometimes you might take all the gels you're going to use on that race, but if you know, for example, Manchester they always do sips, so if you can practice with sips in training, then you know that if you don't have enough gels on you, you'll be able to take a gel off the course.
The thing is that like, I always use the same flavour, but on that you don't know what you're going to get.
Espresso.
Yeah, it's just
Awful.
Another thing I would say as well is when you get a drink, it's like you were saying, sip it. You see people gulp it. If you take it in, like have a big cup, the next thing in the mind, you go on to go to the loo. You know what I mean? It's all about just sipping it all the way.
I'd actually say that if you've got a gel, so high five slightly different in that they're a very liquidy gel, but they're actually quite easy to digest. If you've got a gel which is a bit more gloopy, or at least it will stay in the pack, I'd almost turn around and say, try not to take the whole gel all in one go.
Yeah.
Because it just, you're going at a particular pace, you're trying to go at race pace, and you'll then put a whole gel inside you, and your body is trying to go, I'm trying to get blood flow around to my muscles, and now you want me to digest this whole. So if you've got a gel that's thick enough to stay in there without going all over your hand, take part of it, go again, take another bit, another 400 or 500 metres along, and ideally try to take a gel as you're heading towards a water station. So you finish the gel and then just take a small sip of water to try and wash that gel into you, but try and resist the urge of going with the whole gel, because it will just sit there and your body won't enjoy it.
What's your view on sort of a camelback versus water stations? Because I can always think that a camelback, well, the first couple of water stations certainly are very busy, so you lose quite a lot of time, whereas a camelback you kind of short circuit that.
It's whatever you're comfortable with.
Gaining some weight.
I take you know, like the naked bands, the belts. So I take a 250ml soft flask in that. So I do that for the early water stations because I just don't like the clamber. Don't want to like get tripped over or like be trying to jump over people. So I'll take my own water in the first half, and then the second half when it's a bit more spaced out, that's when I use the water stations.
What we'll say about the water stations as well, know where they are, plan where they are, get over, but don't, everybody will go for the first 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You'll get 2/3 of them that nobody's there, where you can just pick them up and you can actually, I usually point to the person I want it off, because there's
Yeah,
that many
look at
people.
them.
Just look at them in
Look
the
at
eye
them
and just
hold
say,
it, like-
and then they'll kind of give it to you.
Yeah.
You see people knocking it out of hands and all that kind of thing. It's just,
Tell them to open it for me. I say, open it.
yeah, I think they normally are
They
open.
normally are.
Table
Well,
service.
yeah.
Good try.
So your sort of squidgy bottles must be 200ml,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're the one. That's what I take with me.
How you do
Like 2 or 3?
I just take one, and then like I say, I'll take one to the early water stations if we miss them.
You can always fill it
Then
up,
I'll
can't
take
you? You can always fill it up. with something.
Bruce isn't going to stop.
Yeah,
No, you're
yeah,
not
yeah.
now.
Yeah, Just keep going.
You won't. I've read off. I can't remember. It was a really famous marketing coach. It might have been Clayton. There was one of them definitely that said you don't really lose that much time just walking through a water stop to pick it up, to not choke yourself. Because if you're going to go, I've done it in marathons before, and you pick up a cup and you think, oh, in Berlin, right, they had solid plastic cups, and I mean, literally, you couldn't squish them. You couldn't. So when they dropped on the floor, it was like chaos. And I just got this cup and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up like chucking it in my face. And I just was like, right, calm down, just walk for like 5 seconds, take 3 sips, put your cup aside and get going, because you're just going to do more damage.
I've sprayed Lucozade in my eye before.
Yeah.
doing a marathon.
Yeah, Lucozade, the cup at London, there's nothing worse.
I must have treated about 10 sprained ankles from water station, standing on full bottles of water. Have a look down there as well.
Yeah.
Full bottle of water is
Well, just get your water and get away from it, even if you need to run sideways, like, just get away from it.
What other questions have we got?
I'm doing a, well, I'm going to do a hilling marathon later in the year. Do you have any tips for some split training to go up hills when you live in Chorlton, essentially?
You know the answer to this. Keep coming to the Black Sheep. Yeah, run more on hills. Yeah, if you want to prepare for a hilly marathon, run on more hills.
There's also a great group, not this is Black Sheep because they're excellent. There's a group called Wild Trail Manchester. It's a local, it's a free group, and they do, Heather. She's brilliant runs. They do lots of, I think it's really accessible, isn't it? The paces, do various routes, trails, around Manchester, and they do a couple of like runs a month, isn't it, Nick? And they're just
Sundays, I think.
yeah.
On Facebook, I think.
Sophie Gibson goes there, and Steph Houston as well. Is it right? There's a few Chorlton runners who've gone out and done their runs, and they're excellent.
Similar, same
Yeah.
runs as Black Sheep. Sundays.
Just on
Wait,
Sunday.
is that a road race or a trail?
The Yorkshireman. You can change your entry to a half marathon the night before. That's what I'm doing.
Are you still doing hill reps? Do you do hill reps on Wednesdays now?
There is a hill rep
Yeah.
section.
That's a good thing,
I mean-
just to go to that. It's just,
Even in
put that
flat
in your-
marathons to do a bit of hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in a flat marathon, getting some hill work in there is useful. I mean, I do try and find routes, so it's not a pleasant route, but going out through into Manchester, up Cheetham Hill, and doing 2 laps of Heaton Park, and coming back down again. As I say, it's not the nicest route in the world, but
Stockport's good for hills.
then the other one is go to Didsbury, Palswood Cinema, and that road that goes between Palswood Cinema and Stockport Pyramid just does that the whole way. So just going over those inclines and
Yeah,
The Bar Reservoir's really nice. Well, that's right.
near East Didsbury Tram, up the hill that you're talking about, there's you go past the pub and a petrol station. That's a good hill rep session.
yeah. Other questions, Sophia?
Nick, the 2 type of fibers, ones are good for speed, the others are good for resistance, yeah? How do we train them? And what are the ones we need to concentrate on for the marathon? Obviously the resistance one.
I wouldn't worry about that too much, but
Okay.
if you mix up your running, as these guys were saying, to do different types of running, fast ones, slow ones, both within some runs, hill runs for speed, you've got your strength training in there, you've covered it all. You're born with a certain amount, you can shift a little bit one way or the other, but I wouldn't overthink it. If you mix up your run content, you mix up with different people, because that will change your run speeds. You run in different places, different groups, that would be enough.
So, and in relation to your comment, we need to learn to burn fat rather than just the glucogen. So how do we train that? Just by running long distance, or there is any other way to train that?
So really, doing lots of easy running will end up continuing it. So when you're doing your speed work, or you're doing any kind of hard sessions, is when you then start to work into your body using its glycogen and its glycogen stores within the muscle. Everything that you're doing at other paces, as long as you are kind of, relatively easy, perhaps steady pace, but generally easy, that's when you're doing it. Which is why they say do plenty of your running nice and easy.
So the day before, do we eat carbs or fat or a combination of
White,
both? A steak?
plain,
What you want to
white
do,
carbs.
you want to try it out, like we said before, is try it out a couple of times. You know, some people will do it a week. Some people will fast, no carbs, and then have 3. There's loads of different. You've got to try what I know. You've got to try what's right for you. I've known people do that, but as you say, it's each to their own. I'll just have 3 days of just having pasta.
I think it's just a lot of things that are easy for you to digest.
Yeah.
Again, the race story, I know one of my friends had the day before a marathon, was like, oh, I've done a really good thing, I've got this lovely salad box and it was beautiful and bright and lots of vegetables, and then obviously ended up running to the Portaloo in the race because it was very fibrous. So, you know.
Don't try anything different.
Yeah.
What, 3 or 4 days before that you've not done before, basically.
No vindaloo the night before.
Nick,
Pizza's my go-to.
you mentioned plyometrics earlier on. So I think you talked about sort of a few weeks before doing some, but would you recommend doing them sort of throughout your plan? Or is it a little bit?
You've got the leg strength and a good leg form to cope with it. If you start with body weights, then weights you should have to form for that.
Right.
The further back in the morning you do, the better. If you're starting weights now, you've got whatever it is, 12 weeks, then realistically, yeah, you can jump into them pretty quick and find the pump. But yeah, so things like jumping side to side, skater jumps, jump lunges, box jumps, explosive jumpy type stuff. But ideally keeping knee and foot in a nice straight line so your knee's not collapsing inwards. If you're falling all over the show, shorten it, don't jump so high, don't jump so far. You can just leap in. That sudden acceleration, deceleration type of muscle work is great for building muscle strength. Jumpy stuff.
Just going to say, is everybody on that Facebook page, the marathon? Because like, there's going to be loads of questions, and I always say there's never a daft question. You might think it's a daft question, but the person, as soon as you've answered it or asked it, the person next to you, yeah, I'd have asked that. So just if you've got any questions in the meantime, just put them on there, and I'm sure one of us will get back to you some form or another.
You could have, even within now, you could have a plyometric exercise at the end of your strength training now. It doesn't have to be a whole session of plyometrics. That's really hard.
Yeah, well, this is the other day. I went to the gym just to do on the cross trainer rather doing extra miles because I'm conscious about how many miles I'm doing because I'm a little bit older and things like that. So yes, I did that, and I thought, well, actually, what I'll do, I'll try and tag on a few sort of sets of box jumps at the end of that. And I mean, so far, I find it sort of quite good, but I wonder, should I not be doing so much of that at the moment and just waiting a little bit, or?
You've got plenty of time, and I know your running pace is pretty good. Just don't. If it feels bloody hard work, then it probably is. Start on little boxes. You can always go bigger. You've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
You can always start with a certain number of reps. Try and add a certain number, so you're hitting fatigue at a higher number later on. Yeah, it shouldn't be utterly exhausting from the start.
Other questions?
Yeah. Not for anyone, but you know, what would you use to keep going when it does start getting hard? You know, around Mark 2022, sort of stuff like that. How do you keep, you know, pushing yourself to keep pushing it? So I'm sort of trying to, you know, go for a faster time, but I find, you know, I often sort of drop off very early, or you know, I'm not quite maintaining the pace that I want to, and therefore, you know, suddenly, you know, it'll just die and the motivation's gone. How do you keep pushing it?
Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's like, yeah, we don't work with motivation because it's too up and down anyway. But that's quite a common thing that like it's naturally going to get harder as you're doing more distance, as you're going longer. But also like it's your expectation before you even do that. You're gonna the thing about doing endurance sport is you're gonna have patches where it's going to be absolute hell and you feel like you can't get through it, and then a mile or so later it will clear. But if you buy into what your head tells you, where it's like this is hell and it's all gone downhill, then it will. And you'll just talk yourself out of that side of things. I mean, just for this forum, there's too many different ways in which you can kind of make it, do little strategies, but that's the point of why you're starting your training now, and then like start with a few things like we were saying about chunking up your run into manageable bite-sized bits, and just think I've just got to get through this 2 miles rather, 8 lots of 2 miles rather than a 16-mile run. And then also just expect that bad things are going to happen. What are you going to say to yourself when it starts to hurt? What are you going to say to yourself to get through that 1 mile and give yourself a chance that it might just disappear, and then you're in your next one. Oh, I'm on pace. Keep going.
It's only 8.5 part runs at the end of the day, isn't it? That's all it is. So that's.
Did you watch the spine race this year? I have a feeling you might be interested in the spine
Yes,
race.
I
Did you
did.
see Lucy Zagotta, the winner, the women's
Yes.
winner? Her mantra was choosing to suffer is a privilege, and I thought that was quite neat.
Yeah.
Like if you're pushing yourself for that, yeah. So.
I think if you've got something that you're really working towards and you really want that, let's say you get to mile 20 and you really start suffering, you've got 12k. If you think that for 16 weeks I've been working towards, I've put myself in this position during this race over the last 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever it is, I'm not going to get this chance again for 6 months. Like this is it. This is my chance now. And then if you remember why you're doing that, and again, loads of strategies that Stu's got in. I've read Stu's book. It's very, very good.
Great man.
He's not saying buy it, but he said he's read it.
I've got the royalties. I don't care.
Yeah, you work so hard to get to that point. Like, otherwise, if you at that point just go, oh, this is tough, and kind of, again, you've got to work. You've got to know when it's too tough at the same time. So if you're going to put yourself into hospital, then don't do it. But yeah, you've worked so hard for that, and you've only got an hour and a half left.
But I wouldn't even think in those terms. Go a bit more micro. Because if you think you've got an hour left, that's going to be a bloody long hour. Because it's like in a marathon, it always feels longer than it is. Just get through the little bit you're in. And I think what Russell's saying there is like just one of my key things to bang on it about again and again and again, the difference between pain and discomfort. And runners will always go, oh, I'm in pain. And you're like, what? You done your hamstring in? You need to go and see Nick. No. It really hurts. It's like, yep, that's what you signed up for. But that's discomfort, and it'll pass. It might pass in the race. It might be that you've got to get to the end of the race and then get on that foam roller and thingy gun and be fine. But try and learn what, the great thing about a training block is it's an opportunity to learn about your body, learn about your mind, and like what is uncomfortable. I remember the first marathon, I did a 15-miler, and I was like, I'm in agony. My knee felt like it was falling to bits, and I was like ready to quit the marathon. The next weekend, I went out and absolutely killed 17 miles.
I think the thing is, like, I remember when I did Tokyo Marathon, I went there and I wanted to do 3 hours 15, and I told everyone, because I'm always like, I'm going to do this, and I started off, and 8 miles in, my stomach was just like not happy, and I was like, and your mind just goes, and you're like, I've got so long to go, and I was like, Alex, you're in Tokyo, you're not coming back here, like, enjoy it. Still got a PB and was in 3:17, despite the fact in my head, I just was like, just let it go, you like, let it go, you've got to keep going, you're going to get to the end, because it's so much like mental games. And I'd say another, like, one of my top things for like mentally at the end of a race, like, I know you said about chunking it up, I like to, if I can before, go and see a bit at the end of the course. So like at London, the day
Do some
before, I've
visualisation.
walked the end, like the last mile or two, so that I know when I get down, like, I've only got to do this bit. And I've done it, I think, at Berlin. There's like, you can watch the rollerblade marathon the day before, so I was watching the rollerbladers go through it, like 39k, and I was like, yeah, this is, so I'll be here tomorrow and I'll remember.
Just coming back to the really good. Did you say your race is a road race or a trail? Okay. I was going to say, because if I did Lake Windermere Marathon a couple of years ago, and I went up the night before and I drove the course, and it meant I knew where every hill was, and just by having, and they'd already put the mile markers out, so I could say 8 miles, I know what I'm going up, and it was brilliant to have that visualization of what the race was going to be like. So for those of you who are doing Manchester Marathon, make sure you run down to Altrincham and you run around Altrincham up to the market and back down again. You run up that incline to Timperley. Do it 2 or 3 times in your training run, because when you do it, you'll be like, I know what I'm doing here. I know what pace I should be going at. Get that visualization in your head of what that feels like.
And if you're doing London or Berlin or wherever, most marathons have somebody who's gone around with a GoPro, and you can look on YouTube and find it.
Yep.
And like, that's a good one to kind of be doing, particularly in taper week, and you kind of like, what do I do? I'm not running. That's a great exercise to be doing.
For a walk on it.
Other questions?
Actually, just one. Going back to gels, I've never really taken gels ever before. Even when I've done halves, I just haven't taken them. So, for a novice, are there any sort of stayaways from, or ones that you think give these a good shot?
You just got to try. No, I like gels. I've got no problem. There's the other I have one on the cross trainer.
I'd say don't go for like a random cheap brand you find in like Home Bargains. Maybe just go for one you like, a well-known brand.
What you say, high fives are good.
Home Bargains do sits quite.
Oh, do they? Well, yeah.
Do they?
Sorry, not yet. This is a big brand.
Not a random brand.
I make a recommendation, because I've started using Kendall Mint.
Yeah.
And you can get refillable things, so you can have your own little bottle. And when you were talking about don't just down the whole gel, so if you don't like the idea of gels, because I don't really like gels, it feels like you're putting something weird, but it just feels a bit more normal, just taking little sips now and again, and they're in like a little bottle takes 2 gels, and it is a bit more cumbersome to carry, but you're not trying to open them as well as you're going along. I mean, they do them in the plastic things as well, but it's more water. I think they're a bit
Well, if you
more
want to
like
take
high
water,
five,
have you tried Tailwind? Tailwind's another one. It's similar. When I go for a run, I have a Tailwind and
That means you have
electrolyte.
to take
So,
Yeah.
What is Tailwind? Sorry.
Tailwind, it's an
It's a
isotonic
sports
drink.
drink.
Sports
No,
drink.
it's like
I've not got that. I've just got one from Decathlon that I've just used. Just an isotonic one. I use on a run, and then I've just got an electrolyte tablet in the other pouch.
So we use those as well as gels.
Yeah.
There's not just gels though, there's other options
It's all-
out there,
There's
like
like-
chewable bars,
Yeah.
there's whole food, there's sweets. You need to find out what works for you.
You've got
It's not
13 weeks,
gel,
Pete.
go find out what that is.
That means of trials.
One that my partner uses is a brand called Bella Forte, and they only use natural ingredients. So if you don't like the kind of the fake kind of sticky, sugary, normal ones, yeah, Bella Forte are very good. And do a caffeine version. They've got electrolytes in them as well.
They really taste it, feel like a treat actually.
Yeah, they are really good.
I'm gonna write that down actually.
It's just important to look, because that's the thing. I've had Bella Forte as well. All gels will have different carbohydrate contents in and different. So like me and Russ were talking about gels, saying we have one every 30 minutes. We're talking about ones called Cis Beta, which are 40 grams of carbs, and that's similar to like Morton and other. They're high-end, expensive gels, coming in at about £2 or £3 each. Your normal Cis ones that you might get in your cheap pack Maldi will only have 20 grams of carbs in. And if you're saying, you want to be getting, depending on how fast you're running, like 60 to maybe 100 grams of carbs an hour, like that's a lot of gel. So you have to think about how you're going to take on that energy, because I think someone's once said it's like a car, isn't it? It's like fueling a car.
Yeah.
Once you need it, it's too late. Basically, same. If you're thirsty, it's too late.
It's also about carrying it as well, because when I do a half, I normally take 8 with me. It's like one spare, one 20 minutes before the start.
Yeah.
You might be all.
No, well, I did that one.
One at the start, and then every 20 minutes. But if I'm doubling the distance, I'm taking 16 gel.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. That's a lot. That once every.
It's best to go for the higher carb per gel.
And use the ones on the course
I was
as
just
well.
about to say that, so if you know Manchester, I think they use this.
Okay.
Yeah, so and they will release beforehand where
Stations.
they hand out gels. So you can then, and they're normally towards the end, so you can work out how many gels you will need. And if you practice fueling with lots of different flavours, then you can be a bit less picky on the day when they
I'll be quite honest, I never have anything off anybody. I always take the
Yeah,
old
I
stuff.
took my own.
Because I always think you train, my theory is you train for this. Like you see kids handing out jelly babies after 3 miles. I think, you might have flu. I've just given it this. And I tell you what, when you're run down at the end, you're thinking,
What ones do you have at the minute?
Sis, yeah.
So yeah, I just maybe look at the, if you like cis, just maybe look at the beta ones. They're just like their more premium range, which have
Yeah.
more carbs in, and then you can carry less.
I've never had a problem with it, so I'm hoping that. Oh, I'm guessing.
They're really nice. I really.
Yeah, the belts and half tights with pockets are really good for carrying stuff in.
Or if
Keeps
you're a
it
woman,
nice and
there's
tight.
bras which are just whole pockets, which I use, which is amazing. I just whip gels out.
That one's got back as well, don't you?
but you always get
Like
people
samurai.
the couple of weeks
Yeah.
before, shall I wear my vest thing that,
Yeah.
but why not? You know, it's whatever you've trained in, if you're happy. If you just want to get round,
I was thinking,
But
if
just
I'm
have-
running with, like, as we spend more than 2 hours out running, I'm going to take some water with me now, I'm going to take my gels with me. As I'm training with all that, then by the time I get to race day, I'm lighter.
well, I'm going with a flag on. I never trained with a flag. But I have a backpack on. You know what I mean? It's relative, isn't it? So,
It is, you're right.
Any final questions?
Just one thing that's I don't think's been touched on too much. Tapers were mentioned. So what are kind of people's general thoughts around the best way to taper? How long is the taper? What's your kind of thought process throughout that period?
Follow your plan. Don't look at what anyone else is doing. Follow what your plan's saying. Like, it's not the general premise, and I hope the coaches agree, is just less of stuff. It's not like completely like cut out any intensity. It's just less of stuff. You still, I think on the plans I do it normally, it tells me to do like a few miles and then maybe some marathon, like a teensy wincy bit of marathon pace, just so you remember what it feels like. But just follow a plan and don't go too crazy.
I tend to run the same amount of days. So if I'm normally running 5 days a week, like you said before, I've also got ADHD. So for me, like not running is just horrible. So yeah, it's just like the same amount of days, but I'll probably reduce the volume to about between 60-70% and keep, like Alex said, some intensity in there as well. So then when I don't get to the marathon, so I've been carb loading as well for 3 days, not just feeling like heavy and slow. I'm feeling like I can still hit paces and still feeling quite fresh even though I'm well loaded up and ready to go.
I think I did 2 days before my last one. I think I did a park run and 1 run in the week, maybe.
Yeah, it's that balance of 2 weeks
Not a lot.
before.
Yeah, I think the 2 weeks before I do a normal amount. That's what my plan says. I do a normal amount of sessions, but maybe it's slightly reduced mileage.
Yeah.
And then on the week before, it's really about just not letting your head. I know it's.
The marathon's a big part of the mileage though, isn't
Yes.
it? So when you get to the end of the week and you've done the marathon,
Oh yeah, you're still
yeah.
gonna, quite a few miles.
I've always done 2 weeks, but now I pace, I've got a 50-mile ultra 9 days before. So it's not advisable, so I have already done it once. It just hit me on the last 3 miles, that's all.
Don't do that.
So don't do that.
Quite a few people get injured in that last longest run or two, and I say injured, sore, could be also relevant. But you'd be amazed what you're not going to lose much in 2 weeks. What an alternative cross trainer will do, just back off. Your body's saying, "Oh, back off." You'd be amazed what you can get through. You might have to readjust your goals slightly, like a piece with something. Because your first marathon is still a PB, second one you've learned stuff, a bit faster than your first one. So you'd be amazed. You don't have to just keep going because the plan says. Like, listen to what it's telling you. The legs, overhead.
That's the other thing though as well, isn't it? Sometimes you might miss a session or two because of illness or injury. And the temptation's there, like when you're getting to the end of your plan to finish, I need to make up for that. Or I need to do a bit more now because I missed that earlier. That's the temptation, just go do it.
Yeah, you don't get any physical gain 7 days out from training. Like I think it's 10 days. You get an advantage 10 days from your event or whatever physical gain. So if you think I've got to top up the mileage in the last week, you're actually not going to get a benefit till after the marathon anyway.
I'd say the one last thing, and this isn't taper, but this is something I've seen come up after marathons. So everyone's in the marathon, they're dead happy, But then the next thing is, when's my next run? And there's a lot on social media about it, like people being like, oh, I've done, you've got Strava and you see people like recovery run the day after and they do like a 10K day after the marathon. You're like, what? Give it time. Like there is no rush. Someone actually made this, like, said this saying, and I just thought it was so clever. Like after marathon, you train, and your body is like at the weakest point it'll ever be. It's like you're a house and you've left all your windows open for a burglar to come in, and that's basically like illness. If you just like crack on, it's very likely you'll make yourself ill. I'm sure Joe would have done things like that. I've definitely done it and like jumped back on it too quickly, but like just afterwards, please just celebrate getting through it and don't be like, book your next one, whatever, but don't be like, I need to get out there.
I think that's as important for the mind as it is
Yeah.
for the physical, because I think there is that real sense of marathon fatigue. You finish the marathon, and if you then go straight back into, I'm now training for something, or I need to get straight back on it, I guarantee you 4 weeks later, either you're going to find yourself really tight and possibly injured, or actually you get 4 weeks down the road and you're just like, oh, I'm sick of it. So allow the mind to kind of come away from the marathon block, as well as the muscles, the tendons and everything else as well.
There is a big come down after a marathon as well. I think that's important to kind of normalise that after a marathon you will feel like you've got something missing from your life all of a sudden. Like you've been training towards it for so long, and then suddenly it's just like, well, that's done.
Try and plan for 2 or 3 days after you don't have to go down any stairs. You'll go up them. The other one that came up when I first started is have an A, B, a C and a D plan. Like you were saying, what happens if, like the first one, as Nick was saying, it's your PB. So, if you do have a time, that's your A. B is and obviously D is the last. Just finish it. Whether you crawl it, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just get past over the line. 26 point, but 26.2 miles, whether you do it in 2 hours or 8 hours, it's still the same distance. Just remember that. So it's an achievement, isn't it? What's the percentage of people that have done a marathon? Is it?
It's 1%.
Is it less than 1% of the population?
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone here for your time and your contribution. So, hope that was useful. And yes, do just keep asking us questions, either in person or on Facebook in that group. No problem.
You can message us on
Yeah.
Messenger or whatever.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.